a series of very short recap videos. We're going to go through everything we've learned so far in InDesign. So let's begin with parent pages. Here's my file setup. Okay, it's 5.5 wide, 8.5 tall. Everybody's there. Here are my parent pages. They're up here at the top. And as I said in class, very important to know where you are. Am I on a parent page or am I on a document page? Parent page, document page. So let's begin with page numbers. I am going to come down here and I'm going to make a text box using the text tool. I'm going to go to Type, Insert Special Character, Markers, Current Page Number. And as you can see, it's an A because this is the A parent. See that? A parent. And then I want this in the same size, the same place in both pages. So I'm going to say, copy this, paste it in place. Now that you can't see it, but there are two of them right over each other. So I'm going to put one finger on the Shift key as I slide this across the page. Slide. And then I'm going to line it up with this grid line, and I will change it. I'm going to grab the copy, and I will change this to a flush right. By the way, I am working, if you come up to a workspace, I'm working in Essentials Classic. If you want to work in the Essentials, what that does is it basically, here, I'll reset the Essentials. Here we go. It puts everything along the side. I'm used to having everything along the top. So if you're working in Essentials and you say, why does my screen look different? That's why. I'm going to go back to Essentials Classic. It's just how I was raised. All right, so here's my parent page, and I can add more stuff. If I decided that I wanted to put a bullet, Option 8 gives me a bullet. You could use a dingbat. We'll talk about dingbats in class, or a glyph. That's fine. I'll put my name over here. I'll make sure this text box is wide enough for that. Whatever information you want, this information will be on all the left-hand pages. Oops. This information that I'm putting over here obviously will be on all the right-hand pages. I'll say typographic terms. Whatever you want to call your book. Maybe it has something to do with your theme. Sorry. Okay, so parent pages. And you could also, you can add color. You can add little decorative elements if you feel like they work. Here, I'm going to grab a picture box and put it here. I'll go up to my window and grab my swatches. Where are they? Here they are. And I'll fill it with a color. And you say, oh, look, my page numbers disappeared. Well, that's because InDesign, like Photoshop, like Illustrator, works in layers. So I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And now I can see my page numbers, also called my folios. And this is my footer information. If I decided to put this at the top of the page, we would call it the header information. You can do whatever you want. If I go up to Layout and I go to Margins and Columns, I can change the number of columns. Now, I'm on, if you look at the page, if I look at the page layout, I was on both master pages at the same time. Parent pages at the same time. I had them both highlighted, and so that change happened on both pages. Watch, we'll go over here again. I showed you this in class. Instead of left and right, there's inside and outside because we're working with a spine. If this little link is checked on like this, then as I make these changes, everything changes in lockstep. If I unlink them, then, for example, if I wanted the bottom or the top, let's say I wanted the top to have a great big margin on the top, I can move things independently of each other. And then the column widths, the columns, depending on how many columns you have on a page, you notice the columns keep getting smaller, but here's where the gutter is. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you how it does a conversion. I'm going to do 0 picas, 6 points. So number, P number, is picas and points. There are 12 points in a pica. So 0P6, that's a half a pica of space. And if I hit OK, you can see that my gutters are quite thin. We'll talk more about column width versus gutter space when you come back from spring break. All right. So the other thing on a parent page, I'm going to set my drops. So I did Command R to get my rulers. And now I'm pulling these grid lines, these guidelines, down from the ruler. I can also, if I wanted a special guideline here, I could do it here. But when you're designing a booklet, you want to have a number of different drops on the page. Maybe you want a lot of drops on the page. So that as you start to put these pages together, as I start to pull these parent pages out, you can see these grid lines are coming across on every page. So it's not going to be too difficult for me to consistently put boxes on the pages. The other thing we can do, and I'm almost done talking about parent pages. If I go back to my parent pages, to both of them, I'll put my finger on the shift key and grab them both. And I make a text box on the parent page. You notice, see this little icon? If I want this text box to show up as an empty text box on every parent page, this is called the primary text flow. And so if I click on it, you can see that the icon changed. It has an arrow. And so now I have this text box. I could do two of them if I wanted. If I wanted to, I could do this one here. And then I'll click on this one and I'll thread them together. Did you see how I did that? I grabbed this bottom arrow and then I clicked on the next text box. There it is. And so these text boxes now are threaded together. Now I'm on the left-hand parent page. If I go to this page and I put one finger on the shift key and one finger on the command key, you notice that this lights up now. I couldn't see it a second ago, but it's definitely there. And I'll fill it with placeholder text just to show you what is going to happen. I'll go to type, fill with placeholder text. And you notice that the placeholder text filled this box, reached the bottom of this box, and because this box was linked, they're threaded together, it filled up both boxes. Okay? So if you have a drop that you want to be consistent on every page, you could put that box on the parent page and just thread everything together. So that's a quick recap of parent pages.